Fire.
This week on The $1 Million Plan, we talked to Cassie. She recently has received an inheritance. She's nearly 50 years old. Her financial life is starting to come into focus, and she joins us now. Hello, Cassie.
Hi, Pete. How are you?
I feel like you originally chose a first and a last fake name, Cassie Weir. Was there a reason for this?
I've always loved the name Cassandra.
Oh, so we didn't go with Cassandra. We went. You gave your fake name a nickname.
Yes, I did.
This is advanced podcasting right here. So you are 49 years old. You live in Rhode Island. You got to get the H in there. Rhode Island.
Exactly.
And you recently received a big inheritance. Who died?
My uncle.
Oh, I'm sorry. And so he left you $140,000. Like, you must have sent a great number of birthday cards and things through the years to this uncle. Like, how does an uncle leave you $140,000?
We were very close. It was my mother's significantly younger brother, and he was more like a brother to me.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And so he left you $140,000. How recently did you receive the money?
He passed away in May.
Okay.
So all the paperwork was signed last month.
Sure. And so, just looking at what you sent us from a financial life perspective, and I'd love for you to explain to the audience, like, tell me about your financial life prior to receiving $140,000. Was it going well, not well?
Oh, awful. My husband and I have been married. It'll be 23 years next month.
Okay.
And we've known each other for 25. And for those 25 years, we've struggled with putting ourselves through school, paying off our student loans, raising a family, illness, layoffs. And my husband is self-employed. I love the fact that he is, in that we were able to raise our child. We didn't have to put our son in daycare. I mean, there's always a trade-off.
Sure.
But we didn't always make a lot of money, so we made a lot of sacrifices. Now our son is in his second year of college, and but we have a lot of debt, and we are definite under-earners, and we can never feel like we can get in front of that 8-ball. Like, we just live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, you sound like survivors, I can tell you that. I mean, would you describe yourself that way? It seems like you've always have been able to make it work.
Definitely. And, both of us are pretty optimistic. We like to see the glass as half full. But as we get older and realize that we had nothing set aside for retirement when we received that windfall, knowing how the inheritance was worded in the will and how my uncle had set it up, we needed to roll it over into retirement, and we're really grateful for that.
Sure.
But it feels like the day-to-day stuff is still kind of a struggle.
Well, I've got some kind of good news. I mean, in the spirit of looking at things with the glass half full, and this sounds weird, so stick with me for a second. You're not going to have a lot of money at retirement. So this is not the part where you react yet. So just wait for it. But I think based on the current income you live on, you're going to be one of those situations that if we can clean up some debt, then maybe you don't need a lot of money to retire successfully. And I think that's the nature of someone like you. Your take-home pay is $3,400 a month. So in today's dollars, once we clean up some of these debts and take care of some of these obligations, we're not trying to replace that much money in retirement. So I think our challenge here today together is to put together some semblance of a plan that eliminates some of these obligations and then makes the numbers work when you get to retirement age. Is that fair? So, okay. Tell us about the debt you have. You mentioned you have some debts. So what are they? Where'd they come from? Are you paying on them? All that good stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely paying on them. One of them is paying off my car.
Okay.
One of them is some money to the IRS.
Okay. Let's get
Some
some
medical
Let's get
bills.
some numbers flowing here. What the car?
Sure.
How much do you own the car?
The car, there's about I don't even know if I gave you that number, $8,000 on the car that's left.
And then what's your payment?
$300 a month.
Okay, and then you owe the IRS. I assume this is from your husband, self-employed, right? And so is
Correct.
that from that? And how much is there?
About $3,500.
And then how do you make regular payments to them?
We do.
And then what's that payment? A couple $100, $150 a month?
Exactly.
Okay. It's like I've done
they're
this.
good faith payments.
Yeah, no, I understand. You got a medical bill of about $775. Are you making payments on that?
I am.
And then is that this is a weird question, and don't go too deep on it. Just answer it at the surface. Are there further medical issues that will create more medical bills, or is that just sort of an ordinary expense?
No, there definitely are, and there could be potentially.
Okay. And then any credit card debt?
About $3,500 or $4,000.
And you're paying on that regularly, a few $100 a month?
Yes.
And is that...
Yes. In fact, one of them is something that we hope to pay off in a year because there's no interest on it.
Okay.
So that's our goal. We pay over what we're supposed to. We're just really trying to stay on top of that because of the, no interest factor, and put as much as we can on that one credit card that has some additional or higher interest rate.
My gut tells me that credit card balance got there because of life and not because of you wanting more than you can afford.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is sometimes when people think about credit card debt and they look at the debts that people like you in your situation have, they're way too quick to say, wow, you're living beyond your means. I think this is a weird way to say it, you're sort of being forced to live beyond your means. The nature of how life has happened and unfurled itself on you over the last couple decades is what's brought you to this. And that doesn't make it any easier to solve. In fact, it actually might make it harder to solve. But I don't see this as like you and your husband just spending wildly, right?
No, not at all.
And then you have student loans, $7,200 this year for your son. Are those Parent Plus loans that you took out?
Yes.
And then he's in his second year. So are we to, guess that he'll take out equal loans his junior and senior year as well?
Mm-hmm.
So that'll take it to $22,000 for you?
Right.
Okay. So let's go back to income for a second. Your household income is roughly $62,000. How does that break down? Who's earning what?
So I earn about 48.
Okay.
Of that.
And I'll do the math, I guess. That leaves your husband with 14. He's self-employed. Can you tell us anything about how his... Is it seasonal variations in pay for him, or is just as jobs come along? How does that work, and what's the potential for that changing anytime soon?
It's a little bit of both. Some of it is seasonal. Some of it is just the nature of what he does.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, we both tend to be optimists and say, okay, maybe this year will be a little bit better. But I don't see it changing dramatically.
Can I ask a really stressful question? And I'm sorry. I'm pre-apologizing.
No, that's okay.
I'm sure, because I own a business, right? And so when times are tough, I ask myself, about once a year, I ask my question, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What am I doing? This makes no sense. I'm killing myself for this. At any point in time have you guys looked at the situation and said, why don't you just get a gig, like a regular gig? Help me understand that.
Yep. And you're not the first person that's brought that up.
I know. I told you it's a stressful question.
Yeah, because I can answer that question.
Right.
Because I've asked it myself.
Sure.
there's a reason why I don't ask anymore, and I
Gotcha.
think that's why we're still married.
That's fair. So, are you working 40 hours a week, Cassie?
Yeah, at least.
Okay. And
I work a full-time job, and then I do some part-time stuff just to supplement.
okay, so does that take you above that $62,000, or does it still keep you around
No,
62?
that's where it leaves us.
Okay. Um, so here's the other concern with your husband working part time. I'm guessing he hasn't paid um, aggressively into Social Security at high earning wages.
Mm-mm.
Which is to suggest that at retirement age for him, his Social Security retirement benefit might not look that great, right?
Right.
How old is he? You're 49. How old is he?
49 as well.
Okay. All right. So you both have about 13 years until you're eligible to take any Social Security, although, based on your situation and not getting into the health side of things, you probably wouldn't want to take any payments until the earliest of 67. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's take a look at how the $140,000 has impacted your life long term. It means, and we'll have to do some fun math here, on January 30th of 2041, you would actually be millionaires. Now, 2041 is a long time from now, and you could do your own math
Mhm.
on that. And the reality is, and I just have to say it because I'm not really in the business of sugarcoating things. At that point, you would have already started drawing on your assets, right? You would have already started drawing down the 140, which will be
Right.
higher then. So you'll actually never get to that $1 million day. And I don't want that to be your takeaway today, because that's not the point of our time together. But I do want to see what your retirement income would look like at age 67. That 140 with your regular contributions you're making of $113 per month out of your paycheck would equal about $642,000, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
642, and really, if you think about it, that 140 that your uncle left you, with a little help from you, will turn into over $500,000 by the time you retire. It would give you about $1,500 a month of income off of that, but that $1,500 a month of income will feel like $960 of income in today's dollars.
Hmm.
Okay, so as you think fondly about your uncle, I think as you look forward to what it will do for you in your financial life, I mean, he has provided a $960 income stream in today's dollars for you in perpetuity once you retire, which I think is remarkable.
Yeah.
So then the question is, how do we supplement that? I mean, that's why we're here. We're trying to eliminate some obligations. How can we supplement that? Well, you clearly are working full time. You are paying into Social Security, so you will have a Social Security benefit. Do you happen to know what they've projected your Social Security benefit to be at age 67?
I don't, not off the top of my head.
I'm going to guess probably in the $2,000 a month range, which then after inflation, I mean, it's going to feel like $1,200 a month. And so again, that's $1,200 plus the $960 you have. You're looking at $2,100 a month of retirement income, and we're trying to replace the $3,400 a month that you make now. So we're getting closer. You know what I mean? The gap is
Mhm.
not as bad as you think. I know that your current stresses are overwhelming at times, but retirement's not awful. Tell me about your housing situation. Do you own? Do you rent? What are you doing?
We rent.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
were you ever homeowners?
We were.
How long ago was that?
Let's see, about 9 years ago,
Okay.
um, when the recession hit,
Yes.
we were unable to keep our house, so we needed to foreclose on it.
Okay. And so
And again, I had been out of work at the time as well.
sure. So yeah, you talked about those levels of unemployment. When you're the core source of income and they hit you, that gets pretty rough.
Yeah.
Do you see your income changing much over time, or will it always sort of creep up based on where it is now? Or do you even feel secure about the job you have now?
I don't feel especially secure, and I've been looking for some jobs opportunities, but nothing has panned out. I've come really close.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm hopeful that things will change. I guess some days it just does get a bit discouraging, and I wonder if, we'll ever feel like we're not always running on this treadmill to just keep up and just make ends meet.
Yeah, so often on this show, I find myself trying to talk people into a reasonable lifestyle. And I don't feel like that's the conversation we're having. I mean, on some level, I look at your situation. The financial debts you have come from not having enough income at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
none of them are biting off more than you can chew. So I would say this: if you're ever going to feel like this lets up, if you're ever going to breathe a sigh of relief, it's because more income will be coming into your household. I don't think anything else is going to change that. And I'll be honest, prior to your uncle passing away and you getting the $140,000, I can't even imagine your situation, because then you look at not much hope in the future whatsoever, right?
Right. It looked pretty grim.
So, I mean, it's almost like we have to survive. The now is actually harder than the later to some degree.
That's a good point.
Yeah, this is an unusual situation. And then, you're trying to help your son out. He's probably taking out as much student loan debt as he can, and then you're taking the Parent Plus loans on top of that. I think the big key for him, as if you probably don't tell him this every day, I mean, he's got to complete his degree. There is no margin for error, right?
Yep.
No pressure there, right?
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I would say, it's another thing you mentioned. You talk about looking at another gig to bring stability. What I am hearing, I think you value stability right now in your employment more than you would a higher income. Now, higher income would be great. It would certainly serve you, but it does sound like you have concerns over just the normal stability of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned the medical expenses. Do you think that those will come unexpectedly? Do you think they'll come more later in the future or sooner? Do you know anything about sort of the pattern that will come with that?
I don't. It's too difficult to even gauge that.
Right. Yeah, it's tough, and we look at situations like yours, and I think, well, what brings relief? Like, so let's dig here. If we paid off all your debts, and by we I mean you, if you paid off all your debts, does it bring you any relief? So let's examine that for a second. Your car loan is $300 a month. Your credit card debt, I'm guessing you're paying about $300 a month. Your medical bills, I guess you're probably paying like what, $50 a month or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And then your debt to the IRS, you're paying $150 a month. Between those four, that's $800 a month of cash flow, which is quite a bit. It's almost a quarter of your take-home pay that you're making right now.
Right, and that doesn't, once you factor in the rent, doesn't leave a whole lot left.
Yeah, and then I hate to do this to you, but then you look at what the Parent Plus loan payments are going to be 3 years from now. It's almost like the window to solve this, to at least take the next step forward, is can we take a chunk out of this debt to free up your cash flow prior to the Parent Plus loans kicking in? And I almost feel like we have to chunk down this goal, this idea for you, because otherwise it's going to be pretty easy to get overwhelmed and carried away with how dire things feel, Okay, so let's think about this. Your car, you owe $8,000-ish, we think. You pay $300 a month. So what's that, paid off in 2.5 years or so?
Yes.
So that'll be paid off by the time he gets out of college. So that's good. Would you have another car payment? Do you guys have one or two cars? Is there any chance that you'll have to get a different car?
We have 2 cars, and we're hoping that both of them will last us a good number of years.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Now, the credit card debt, are you stacking it back on the top as well, or are you able to just pay it down without accumulating any more debt?
No, we're actually chipping away at it, and one of the we had pretty much brought it close to a zero balance, and we needed to put our car insurance on it.
Okay.
So again, it was a matter of survival.
Sure.
You know, it's not like we're going out and we're buying,
Right.
Vacations or, extravagant clothes or anything like that.
Are you dealing with all the money, I assume?
No, we both are. We kind of split things. I feel like I'm not a numbers girl, and I, within the past couple of years, really decided to take it upon myself to learn more about this so that I felt, for many years, it was like, oh, that's my husband's problem to worry about the money. I'm just, the pretty housewife.
I want to be a pretty housewife.
So we both handle certain aspects of finances.
And then when his income comes in, we were not going to dive too deep on it. I'm just curious, like, does it come in big chunks, or are there months where he has no income?
Both. There are times when it's like, oh, wow, that's great. We can actually pay 2 months' rent ahead of time. Like, we can
Sure.
get caught up with we've never been late with the rent, but we've been trying to pay 2 months at a time just so we can stay on top of it. And then there are some months where nothing comes home.
Yeah.
And that's really tough, which is why we do have an emergency savings that we try to keep a chunk of money in. I'd love to put it towards a vacation or use it to pay off debt, but that's really like our safety net.
How much is in there?
$4,300.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, 4,300 is sort of, in your situation, it's just a little bit more than 1 month's expense if things went terribly wrong. But let's be honest, if your husband goes a couple months without a paycheck, it supplements his pay for 2 or 3 months. It replaces his pay. Yeah, I would definitely not spend that money on a vacation, although I'm sure relieving some stress would also be beneficial to you. Yeah, I mean, I don't want the takeaway from this to be, all right, you need to bring in more income. Like, I don't want, but I'll be honest, that is where we're at, because I feel like you guys have made ends meet. You've got a little bit of a lifeline for your long-term financial life with the inheritance you received from your uncle. And so at this point in time, I just think you need more fuel for the car. Like, you just need more income.
Yeah.
That's not even helpful, is it? I mean, if I'm being honest here, I'm like, hey, thanks for calling. Make more money. I'm sorry.
No, it is helpful because I think it's what we've known for a while, but to have somebody like really look at it and validate that we're not spending outside our means and that, something external has to happen. And that external is that our total gross income has to be greater than what it is currently.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think it's important. I don't know if you're going to have your husband listen to this, or you're going to recount the conversation with him. It's important for me to say I don't know all the facts, and I think on top of that, in some situations, it's inappropriate for me to seek more facts, and let's just deal with the information we're dealing with. So that is to say, I'm not a know-it-all for your situation. I can just say these 2 things scare me about what's happening. 3 things, really, but 2 of them are related. Number 1, you need more income now. But the bigger issue there is if your husband isn't paying regularly into Social Security at retirement, I'm worried about what he'd be able to contribute to the pie, if you will, right? And so I don't want to say him getting a regular gig solves 2 problems. However, him getting a regular gig may increase the income, and it would allow him to pay into Social Security, which would help down the road in retirement. And then the other factor is the one that probably stresses you out as well, and that's the unknowing of when a medical bill is going to come and be part of your life in a negative way. Right? That's what scares me. I will say this though: if medical bills stack up in the tens of thousands, at some point filing a medical bankruptcy makes a tremendous amount of sense for someone in your situation. But you're not even close to that right now. I mean, you've got a relatively low amount of debt. But when you match that with your relatively low amount of household income, then it feels like a big amount of debt, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that's a little bit my takeaway. My takeaway is this: that if the debt gets too bad, you would actually want to consider a medical bankruptcy. I don't know if that makes you feel good, bad, or otherwise, but that's why it's there. So you should take advantage of it if it stacks up. And number two, a regular gig, from my objective opinion here, solves two problems. It solves the cash flow problem now, and it will allow Social Security to be available to your husband at retirement. Any questions for me? Any additional questions before we part?
No, this has been extremely helpful. As I said, it really does validate a lot of, what I've been feeling, and it does give me hope.
Sure. Well, I'm glad, and I'll say this. Money conversations in a situation like yours can be especially difficult for couples because of all sorts of factors. Trust and pride and unconditional love and all sorts of other things. If at some point it makes more sense, even offline, it doesn't have to be part of the show, I'm willing to talk to your husband about these things. So just let us know, and we won't make a spectacle of it. We just want to help because I know I've seen this before and I know what's happening, and by all means, I want to support you in it.
Thank you. Thank you sincerely.
No, it's my pleasure. Wish you the best of luck there in Rhode Island, which I will be in October, going to Providence. That's in Rhode Island, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've never been to Rhode Island, and I'll be going in October for an event, October like 22nd or 3rd. I don't know. I'll be there, and I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cassie, and keep us updated and let us know. Send us an email if you want to take me up on my offer to talk to your lovely husband.
I will surely do that, Pete. Again, my many thanks.
My pleasure. All right. That's it for this week's $1 Million Plan. If you want to be on the show, be on the show. Look, we do this show. Sometimes you just never know what you're going to get, and that's why I love this show. I love people like Cassie. Because so often we were convinced that people in the financial struggles have caused their own financial struggles. But sometimes life happens, right? And then you just try to do the best you can with it. This isn't one of those self-induced things where they've got like 3 motorboats and all these different things. They're just good American people trying to survive. I don't know why I threw the word American in there. God, felt xenophobic. I didn't mean it that way. All right, I'm leaving. Hey, be on the show, PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. That's it. I'll see you next time on Pete the Planner.
This is where I came from. Planet Lovetron, where we drop love bombs, funk missiles, and live in soul shelters. No helter-skelter. The heat don't swelter because everybody stays cool. Left many moons ago to bring the philosophies of my ancestors to another place, God. Picked the third rock, gave me to my earth family, and told me to create, and so I am. Pen in my hand, microphone on the stand. Over vinyl, I command and demand. Magnificence in an instance, I can make you dance, cry, or love. Fly as a dove, released from Everest. The fresh is fresh, and you can call me E.T. Word to John Tesh. Let me bless this harmonic presentation. It's amazing, so amazing. I'm the reason. Salutations, I bring you Lovetron greetings from a faraway land. I am the sole controller. Put the remote down and let me take control. You're now a part of my zone, so enjoy yourself. Lovetron can restore your health. I bring you greetings, salutations. How you doing? And is that how y'all say it? The tinkling of the keys is an homage to the little star. I sojourn over poetic descriptions of sound and travel to my other world. Out of this world, spaceship on my arm. took me home, fueled by the ink and the megabytes and the hypertext transfer protocol, stronger than the Skynet and the Terminator. I push faders into warp speed, glide with ease, creating a breeze they call a black hole. Event horizon, no rear view concerns. This I adjourn, and beats I burn. This I adjourn, and beats I burn. Salutations, I bring you Lovetron greetings from a faraway land. I am the sole controller. Put the remote down and let me take control. You're now a part of my zone, so enjoy yourself. Lovetron can restore your health. I bring you greetings, salutations. How you doing? And is that how y'all say it?